What's going on, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are doing a redo of our Deebo Samuel video, talking his fantasy outlook post his Jones fracture in his foot. It's a bit of a disappointment here. Deebo Samuel was on our targets, someone that we were very high on in the offseason and looking to invest heavily in. Now with the potential to, at this point, we don't think that he's going to go on IR, but it's highly doubtful that he's going to be ready for the start of the season. And even if he does play early on in the season, most likely going to be playing through recovering from that injury. Who knows whether they're going to hold him out long enough for him to completely recover. But even if they give him a few weeks to come back, there still could be lingering effects from this injury. So a lot of times this injury requires another surgery if the first one doesn't heal appropriately. So it's a bit of a bummer for Deebo Samuel, but overall, I think his upside is heavily capped now. You know, last year, as we had mentioned, he took over in the second half of the season, really started to come on, didn't look so good in, just overall looking at his stats, but as the season went on, really started to come into his own, finishing as a wide receiver one multiple weeks in weeks 10 and 11, and then only had one real down week against the Falcons in week 15, where I believe he was hurt for a portion of that game, but averaging about 15 fantasy points or more over the course of the back half of the season, finished as a wide receiver one in average points per game over the course of that point. So from week 8 to week 17, he had 150.5 fantasy points, which was number 8 in the NFL. Finished with a 70.4% catch rate, number 8. He did have an 11.1% drop rate, which was number 3. Very high in the drop count. Was hoping for him to improve in that regard this year, and he still may. Finished with 8.1 yards after the catch per reception, which is number 12 in the NFL. If you add his season and postseason yards per carry, he was involved heavily in the rushing game. He averaged 13.1 yards per carry, so it gives you a bit of a bonus in terms of his rushing production, not something that you get from a lot of receivers. But again, with that injury to his foot, that could also limit the amount of carries that he's going to get. This is a team with 98 vacated targets. Obviously, some of those are going to go to Brandon Ayuk. Jalen Hurd is coming back from injury, and most likely now they're going to see a larger portion of those vacated targets that we are hoping Deebo Samuel is going to come in with. So expecting him to miss a few games and be a bit more ineffective in the first couple games back, we've dropped him all the way down to 53 receptions, 863 receiving yards, and only 6 touchdowns, puts him about 174.6 fantasy points. He has gone down a few rounds, but overall, unless you're going to take him in the double-digit rounds and are comfortable with leaving someone on your bench, it's probably not going to be Deebo's year for us in fantasy, which is really, again, very, very disappointing. Hopefully he recovers well, and next year he becomes a value pick. But in a season like this one, where the waiver wire is going to be probably the key to many teams' victories, just considering everything that's happening with the pandemic, I don't really want to clog up my bench with a guy that probably is going to be ineffective for the first half of the season. Remember Deebo Samuel's name, because he could be someone that ends up dominating in the back half if he's able to fully recover from this injury and become more acquainted with the offense as the season goes on. He could do the same thing as he did last year and finish the season on a great tear if he's going to be able to completely recover, but probably not someone you want to draft and wait for, someone you might want to trade or pick up on the waiver wire after like week 8. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.